We are pleased tonight to be recognized by the Newark City of Destiny, who has chosen a Newarker, a great Newarker, to honor. We salute the work and the legend of the late, great Newarker, we call her, Ma Burch, Dr. Mary Beasley Burch. And we thank the Caring Network of Volunteer Services for sponsoring this note of encouragement. They called her Ma Burch, coming to Newark in the 1940s. Her husband had just graduated from medical school, his internship in Harlem Hospital, and they lived on 14th Street in Newark. And the young children used to come by, but sometimes they would take her milk. So she set it up where she could find out who it was. And when she did find out, she took, rather than calling the authorities, she took them in and began to nurture them and talk with them and to encourage them. Gave them cookies and all kinds of refreshments. And she worked with Don Newcomb, one of the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time, who had a place not too far away. And she began to develop the youth, the men and the women, to show the young ladies, to show the men how we did the proper graces. She did so much as an encourager, as an educator. It's ironic because she was told at a rather early age that she couldn't have children. But she ended up having thousands, including yours truly, because she took an interest in our educational backgrounds, our teaching, our development. And I lived on 14th Street. My brother and then, we became Leaguers. But there are many, many thousands of Leaguers out there, and we're just going to be able to point out a few. Dr. Mary Burch, as she's called formerly, but Ma Burch, by thousands who have gone through her ranks and her teachings. She founded the organization called the Leaguers, and they met in different places until she began to fundraise on Clinton Avenue, 731 Clinton Avenue, for a building. And she had a lot of people who were encouraging her, Millicent Fenwick, who was an assemblywoman at the time, the artist name, who was a sculptor, and his name was Lip Chips, and he was a great sculptor, and he was very happy about helping Mrs. Burch raise the money for the Leaguers. It was only $250,000. That doesn't sound like much now, but in those days, it was a tremendous amount. And we had cotillions. We had programs. We had parent development. We had social development as we came together as a nonprofit organization, and the Leaguers went into growth like we've never seen before. So much so that today it enjoys a building down in the downtown part of Newark, and it's led by a great executive director, Veronica Ray, who was a student of mine and later became director of the Leaguers. Now, with this great, big, enormous program, there are over 400 youngsters who go through Head Start, various branches, and this is the headquarters. But it happened because of Dr. Mary Burch. Her husband, this was a community team that worked together to educate so many thousands. She raised scholarships for students and individuals who could never afford to go to college before the financial aid was available, and she'd go up to Seton Hall, follow McNulty, and get scholarships for Leaguers. And Dr. Reynold Burch was right there by her side, supporting her every step of the way. And one of those individuals was a youngster. His name was Donald Payne Sr. and he didn't have the money to go to college. Mrs. Burch was helpful in him getting a scholarship up at Seton Hall through Father McNulty. And they had the cotillion, a very formal event. Many of us didn't even know what a tuxedo was. But this great event allowed so many hundreds of students to come. But I want to use just a couple of these leaguers to show you her profound impact on the lives of many. There's Connie Woodruff, who stuck by her all through the years. But Donald became the congressman of the 10th District of New Jersey. Just to show you, she developed and he went through for a long time. He worked for the YMCA, and then he became the congressman. Before that, he was a freeholder. Before that, he was a council person. But to the youngster that she helped get a scholarship ultimately became a congressman from the 10th District. He and his brother, I remember his brother at a very young age. I went to Prudential, and he was the only African-American executive that was on the staff, and how proud I was. His name is William Payne, and he stayed with Prudential for a while, and I will always admire him. He became an assemblyman, and now he's the assistant to the county executive. But I will always remember how he wanted to help with that spirit of Mrs. Burch, and he opened up a business where he was working with computer paper and computer supplies, and he employed many that had been incarcerated, but he had that spirit of wanting to help someone. So these two fellas, and I'll just concentrate on them, but they had a chance to be around people like Senator Robert Kennedy, New Jersey Governor Richard Hughes, and William became an assemblyman. But look later on, many years later, we see with Dr. Yamba and others, these same two brothers, Donald and Bill Payne, with the President of the United States, President Barack Obama. And we can go back to the 50s where the Leaguers became so well known. They invited Dr. Martin Luther King to be the speaker. And at that affair was Mrs. Burch, who introduced Dr. King as a speaker at the Leaguers' banquet. We will never forget these achievers, and Dr. Yamba and all those, the governor and all were supportive. But we remember that our roots came from the Leaguers. Mrs. Burch had a lot of helpers and a lot of supporters. And one was Newark Mayor Sharp James. Another was Senator Winona Lippman, who got community affairs funds for us. And then those of us on the board, we remember Mayor Kenneth Gibson, and now Ross Baraka, who is the son of a Leaguer's alumnus. All this help. And then we had help from Al Bundy, who came to the Leaguers as a youth leader and is currently the Director of Institutional Advancement at Essex County College. Leaguer Yvonne Lowen, she became Associate Director of Human Resources at Essex County College, but she became chairman or chairwoman of the board and served for 20-some years until the new building was built. There's support of Barbara Kugler of the Star-Ledger, who was always there to support the Leaguers. Attorney Raymond Brown, one of the best-known attorneys in New Jersey, the late Raymond Brown, and he came to her rescue many times. There's Connie Woodruff. Constance Woodruff was that supporter who could always be there when Mrs. Burch needed her. And then we have Leaguer alumnus, Senator Ron Rice, New Jersey State Senator, and has served for over 25 years. She had friends like Assemblyman Brown and Millicent Fenwick, who ran for Senate. And these people supported the Leaguers. But we must commend the current executive director, Ms. Veronica Ray, who has brought the Leaguers through all kinds of sunshine and storms, but she's a leader of distinction, and she was the one that designed and engineered and expanded, and she's a hero to all of us. She works very hard. She built the building, and there's some 400 youngsters currently who go through the Leaguers in order for preschool and for Head Start. Her staff is extensive, but they recognize they got their start at the Leaguers. There was a supermarket across the street. It was available, and the Leaguers bought that and developed all kinds of programs and added senior citizen programs, added all kinds of community support programs. We had counselors and parents who could bring their children there. And here today, through Director Veronica Ray and the efforts and the image and the legacy of Mrs. Burch, we have this beautiful building that services Head Start programs around the county, as well as youth programs with the Leaguers. These are just some of the parents who come and are supportive. There are many Leaguers alumni that I can talk about. Some of the most famous, Amiri Baraka, who was a poet, and he was a playwright. He was a social justice champion. He was a professor at Cornell University. And then we all know Dionne Warwick as an international music star, but she's involved in a big social justice program now, working with youth and communities. And then there was Dr. James Brown. James Harris. He was an alumnus of the Leaguers, and he went on to be dean at Montclair State University. He was president of the Black Educators Association and is still very active. And then we're proud our hero, who mentored a hero, because Dr. Mamie Bridgeforth is a great hero to many of us. She was inspired by Mrs. Burch to attend Essex County College. And later she got a degree, and she went on and got a graduate degree. She taught at Uppsala. She worked very hard to put and work with her children and get them through college. She became a professor in the social science division at Essex County College. Later, she became chairperson, which she still holds that position today. She was a councilwoman in New Jersey and Newark in the West Ward, and she currently is also a pastor of a Newark-based community church. So with Ron Rice and Mamie, there's so much to be thankful for. Then there was another alumnus of the Leaguers and a graduate of Essex County College, Charles Woodruff, who graduated and went to Cornell graduate school, became an architect, opened his own architectural firm, and he designed this new Leaguers building, which is located in downtown Newark. And then, of course, there's the Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, Sheila Oliver, with Governor Phil Murphy. They were just reelected. But she was a Leaguers alumnus many years ago. Then she was a director of the Leaguers. She was recently reelected as lieutenant governor. She is a former assemblywoman, and she was a worker in the city of Newark. Essex County College has a new president now. He's the 9th president, who appreciates and welcomes the opportunity of continuing what he calls the Ma Burch legacy. That is, touching thousands for their educational development. Students today will never know that this woman from Pennsylvania, how they affected their lives. And I'll mention that in a minute. You see, Dr. Augustine Boke will tell you that if it weren't for Mrs. Burch, if it weren't for Ma Burch, there would be no Essex County College in Newark. What happened? Well, they were going to put the college, after the riots in Newark in 1966, they were going to put the college up in Verona, which would have knocked the opportunity, all that bus travel, all the ways in which students who didn't have cars couldn't even get on the buses. And so she was a part of the Davis Commission. And Mrs. Burch, she was outnumbered 3-1. And they said, we come up with the decision that it should go to Verona. And this is a time when the majority did not win. She put forth her stressful argument. That school is needed in Newark. And thousands have come and graduated, and Mrs. Burch's legacy will always be known and appreciated. Dr. Isaac Riyamba was the president for some 29 years, and he will tell you how much he appreciated what Amiri Burch did in going forth and insisting that the college be in Newark. We have Leaguer supporters, the Newark City Council, the mayor, Reynold Baraka, and his father was a Leaguer. Essex County College would not be what it is had not Amiri Burch been there. She became chair of the board, and they dedicated a theater to Mrs. Burch, the 500-seat theater, elaborate theater at Essex County College is named after Mrs. Burch. The students, the community, they all loved her and remember her contribution. But Dr. Yamba made a specific kind of contribution that she will always and did always appreciate when she was alive, and we appreciate it today. The college had a chance to get a building that would ultimately go to the Leaguers, and the Leaguers bid on it, and the college bid on it, but Dr. Yamba, in a sacrifice and with a vision, knowing what the Leaguers' goal was, he facilitated the Leaguers and Mrs. Burch having that building. And we will always appreciate Dr. Yamba's contribution, because here is that building. Through Miss Veronica Ray, we celebrated. It started in 1949, and look where we've been blessed to come. All kinds of years, 72 years after its founding, the Amiri Burch Center. And she taught us that we are achievers and we have unlimited potential. She taught us that we have the talent to achieve every goal. And every goal is something you have to strive for. And she taught us how to serve our children and teach our children that what we share with them goes on as our legacy. She taught us you can, as the Indians, when an elephant is born in India, someplace they tie his legs as a little baby with a big chain to a building or a post. Then when he gets to be a large animal, she taught us, he has the power to tear the whole building down. But they put a little rope on him because in his mind, he's still tied to that. What Mrs. Burch tried to teach us was that we have the capacity, we have the power, we have the ability to achieve in anything that we set out to do. We just have to stand up, be strong, with a strong determination. And here we are in an age of technology where we have computers for youngsters that we never had before. And there are many kinds of obstacles that we will run into, or icebergs, but you have to learn how to navigate around them. And we don't have to be first, she taught us, but you have to finish this race no matter what. And she encouraged us to keep going, to keep climbing, and to keep moving. Essex County College, while Mrs. Burch was there as chair and in many other capacities, the President of the United States, President Bush, visited the campus, and Trish Morris, and we have television stars, and then, of course, Amiri Baraka. And whatever was being uncovered or unraveled or unwrapped in its ribbon science labs, all kinds of things. And we see the late Congressman Donald Payne. We see in the laboratories that she supported and the current county executive. So these youngsters who never will know Mrs. Burch, but they know what she did. They see her work. She's a graduate of Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. She was the first black to graduate from that institution. And today, they honor her with a big scholarship. Mary Beasley Burch gifted Minority Student Scholarship. And that's given to her as not only the first African American to graduate from there, but to her for her lifelong accomplishments, for her work with several artists, with several supporters, with people who are known all over the country, the late Shirley Chisholm. So as she came to her 95th year, the last year of her life, she came to Newark and she sat on that chair and at 95 years of age told us and gave us a charge. And her charge was, continue my legacy in service to our people. Enhance their lives with opportunity through education. So, Mrs. Burch, that legend, the late Dr. Lloyd Turner has said, remember and keep the legend that is in you. Well, Mrs. Burch passed on a legend to us. It's a working legend. A legend doesn't die. It keeps moving. So I say a legend does not die with the taking away of life, but continues in our lives. We pick up where she left off, and after us, someone will pick up from us. So we are glad to commend her tonight and to remember her words and her life and her commitment. And there are many thousands her life touched. They will never know what a positive force they were in her life or their lives. So she taught us to continue to do all we can in all the places that we can, in all the ways that we can, for all the people that we can, for just as long as we ever can. Thank you for the opportunity of saluting a great Newarker.